let's talk about hardware available to SOLIDWORKS users to maximize their experience. Everyone has preferences and ways that they like to do things inside of SOLIDWORKS, myself included, but how do these preferences and decisions when using the software change our efficiency and quality of life when working day to day on projects? I want to take a look at the hardware available for SOLIDWORKS users and give out some ideas on how to use these devices to benefit your workflow in conjunction with the typical SOLIDWORKS shortcuts. These devices are all a matter of choice and opinion, of course, and you will develop your own as you decide what to use. That being said, here's what I recommend. For your workstations, you're usually buying a laptop or desktop that has to run SOLIDWORKS in addition to everything else you have running in the background, and it needs to run on average for at least 5 years. For any workstation, I recommend buying at least a standard quad-core processor and move on from there. Many aspects of SOLIDWORKS are not multi-core, so the faster the clock speed on the processor, the gigahertz value on the label, the faster the processor. Some processors can be overclocked to absurd speeds, but I would be careful of doing that because they do generate a lot of heat when you overclock. Buy the platform around your processor first and foremost. i5s, i7s, and the coveted Xeon processors are good places to start when specifying a workstation. If you're using simulation, get as many cores as you can afford with hyper-threading when selecting a processor. From there, the most expensive component is the graphics card, and I mean a graphics card, not a gaming card. A full list of certified graphics cards for SOLIDWORKS are on the SOLIDWORKS website. I recommend getting as much onboard GPU memory as one can afford and shoot for no lower than 2 GB on board. NVIDIA makes a great card in the Quadro K2100M, which is what TPM uses in most of our workstations and training machines. Whatever you choose, just make sure you run a check for the right drivers on the SOLIDWORKS website. Once those two items are selected, make sure the computer has at least 16 GB of RAM for CAD and 32 GB of RAM for simulation machines. SOLIDWORKS has a minimum requirement of 8 GB of RAM. But remember, in 5 years, the minimum might bump up, and 10 years from now this information will be old and useless. 16 GB of RAM now will hold up for 5 years, but RAM is so cheap now, go for as much DDR4 or the new cutting-edge DDR5 as you can safely mount on the machine. Lastly, make sure you're running on a solid-state drive on your CAD machine, especially laptops. You can store your data on a spin drive when you are done, but for the maximum performance you want to have a solid state with SOLIDWORKS installed on that. There are many reasons a solid state is better than a spin drive for CAD, which can be found on the internet. For my mouse, I use a very simple apparatus that looks like it walked out of a Steven Spielberg film. I saw a student with this YCC Team G10 mouse, and I picked up one for under $30 on Amazon just to try it out. So look, this is not the best solution by any means on the market, but it is packed with features and software I would expect in a $100 plus gaming or CAD mouse. I also travel a lot and I needed something that met my needs. You can easily find one that meets your needs and budget, but I do want to talk to you about using an enhanced computer mouse for SOLIDWORKS. This mouse comes with macro buttons on top for navigating web pages and tabs inside of SOLIDWORKS, as well as 3 shortcut macros on the thumb rest. I use my S key, Control, and Escape keys on my mouse macro buttons to speed up my SOLIDWORKS workflow. The other important functionality to talk about here is the programmable macro loops that you can create with this mouse to speed up mundane tasks like repetitive data entry. Since I teach SOLIDWORKS classes often, I also wanted to make sure the mouse was not too much and would not take away from training by making the commands too hidden from the users who are still learning. For when I'm not training, I want to be as efficient as possible, so I use a macro gaming or CAD mouse. The mouse is comfortable, and comfortability is very important. This mouse has good weight to it, and I chose not to go with a wireless mouse because I did not want to worry about batteries. Obviously, you will need to decide what your CAD station needs based on your comfort and familiarity with SOLIDWORKS. This particular mouse is durable when kept in the original box that it came in, and after about 1.5 years of daily travel in my laptop bag, the mouse still looks good as new and works great, so I would recommend this one for a travel laptop or a workstation. Without batteries, I made it through TSA at the airport about 7 times now as well. When using SOLIDWORKS, the mouse wheel feels amazing and makes for very smooth and accurate zooming with the grippy mechanical notched mouse wheel. Many mouse wheels will not tolerate a double mouse wheel click without drifting, but this one holds position excellently. You will also need to find a mouse wheel that does not make you want to throw it across the room, and there are many out there that do. So this YCC is what mouse I use daily right now, but I have used a 3D Connection Space Mouse, and I have great things to say about them as well. Since I have a macro mouse, the only time I need to touch the keyboard is when I have to use the number pad. 3D Connection sells one Space Mouse that has enough buttons to map the number pad, so you can type the numbers in with your left hand and keep your right hand on the mouse, with the huge added benefits of using a 3D mouse in conjunction with your normal or abnormal computer mouse. I really like that workflow, but for the price of the apparatus north of $300 for the Connection 3D mouse, it's not something I would ever want leaving my desk. I can't travel with it because it's pretty bulky and honestly too expensive to move around and put in a laptop bag. It is, however, the most badass and appropriate device to have on your desk in the office, and if it is within your budget, I would definitely purchase one. Keyboards come in all sorts of different shapes, sizes, and capabilities. I am one who prefers the feel of a mechanical keyboard over any other type. There are tons of opinions online about mechanical versus tactile keyboards, but I switched to mechanical a long time ago and I've never gone back. This doesn't mean I use an IBM Model M Dinosaur. It just means that the feel of my keyboard is usually more comforting, and I could tell right away if I made a typo based on the feel of the keyboard. If you're using SOLIDWORKS at home like I do often, I recommend the Razer Black Widow Ultimate. If you want to bring it to work though, your coworkers will probably ask you to do a favor and buy the O-rings for the keyboard so that it does not sound like a small machine gun battle going on your desk. These mechanical keyboards can be loud, which is why I prefer the Widow at home. For work, I tried the DAS Keyboard 4 Pro with cherry brown switches, which is a much quieter mechanical keyboard and a pleasure to use. You can go to Best Buy and easily find one of these sitting out and test the keys for yourself before you buy, and like everything, you can usually find it cheaper online if you decide to buy it eventually. Many of these keyboards also offer additional macro buttons and keys to expand your shortcut menu inside of SOLIDWORKS. So in summary, I hope some of this information will help you gear up for SOLIDWORKS 2018. If you want to make a workstation, choose either a laptop or desktop build, find a processor with at least a quad-core minimum, select a graphics card with over 2 GB of onboard memory, buy at least 16 GB of DDR4 RAM at a minimum, find a solid-state hard drive plus any storage drives you need to attach, and then purchase a macro mouse, a 3D mouse setup, and a keyboard. Again, these are just some hardware recommendations. You guys are often going to find that there's some better stuff out there, and this stuff changes from day to day. So go out there and build yourself the most efficient workstation that you can. Thank you for watching TPM's 3 Minute Thursdays, and we'll see you next time.